Ladies and gentlemen, can you hear me? Let me know in the chat, please. This is a serious storm. Not only do we have the lightning, now we have a tornado warning. This tornado warning is right around US Route 1 to Jerusalem, 152, Mountain Road area, Singer Road. It's hardly moving. It's very, very slow moving, but it is creating a good bit of rotation now. Enough to worry about. Let's take a look at the correlation coefficient. This one's got me a little worried. What am I doing here? So this is what's got me worried. It does show a little bit of debris type signature here where it's starting to throw, and this could be a hail shadow, but it is definitely throwing something in the air, or it's got some kind of a hail core that's helping cause this right in here. You can see these blues, and that's in the same exact location. And this thing is wrapping up pretty good now. This last return is very serious looking. So we are in between Route 1 and 95. We are in the Franklinville area, Jerusalem Mill, Jerusalem Covered Bridge area, Mountain Road in the Fallston area, like Mountain Branch Church, uh, the golf course across the street, and that's about where the couplet is at, where the Singer Road red light is on 152, north of I-95, south of US Route 1, in that long stretch along 152. Damaging winds could be surrounding this area also with inflow, outflow type rear flank downdraft type areas. So with this kind of noise on the correlation coefficient, it has me worried that it's blowing at least tree limbs around, and it's not a quite strong rotation, but it is something more than what we usually see. You can see here on the right side of the screen, we've got 40, 50 mile an hour wind gusts coming out of this storm, and it's been doing this for almost an hour and a half in this area. And also microbursts to the north coming out of this storm. You can see these brighter colors on the right side of the screen, which is the wind velocity indicating 30, 40, 50 mile an hour gusts at times. So this storm has been building and been crazy, and I was worried that that secondary storm system that came running up behind it through Carroll and Baltimore County about an hour ago would collide with it and cause this type of interaction. Unfortunately, there's no other way to know. I'm still pulling up cameras from the area. I can't get any cameras in that immediate area, but if anybody has any video, we definitely have a serious issue here. It's tightening up again. You can see the couplet. Let me get rid of my tracker and go to single screen here. So this is the correlation coefficient. This is what tells us what type of materials are in the radar by the shape and the size of the debris or raindrops, insects. It can tell what's flying around, and it can see what's happening with that storm. If we put this in motion, 21 frames, normal amount of noise, and then we start to see a lot of noise exactly where that rotation is centered. So we'll stop that. And there's a hail core possibly, or even another rotation up here causing some microburst, causing some noise. And when you see these long shadows stretching, they're stretching away from the radar site, which is over here, looking at that storm from Sterling, Virginia. And when you see these shadows of weird noise looking patterns coming off of a signature like this, that can be indicating that there's something more there than just noise. So that's concerning as well. We'll go back to the velocity. My velocity is colored better than most people, so you can tell low level rotation because that's what we see most often. And it's a really noisy pattern here. It's not very clear, but we're also very far away from the radar, so we're looking high up in the sky. Let's change this. And I think we're going to be out of range for the BWI radar. But I just want to take a look real quick and see if it can grab it. Yep. So that's a little lower and higher resolution area, and we've got a bright couplet there and kind of an inflow notch. So let me do a couple frames in motion here and take a look at that. You can see the storm's nearly stationary. These bright returns can be worrisome, but they can also be noise. But it is right where the couplet would be, so we could have us a decent amount of rotation going on here. It's definitely got some inflow notching happening that wasn't there. And we've got gusts, microburst style gusts blasting off. That's what this is here. You can see in the shadow the hail core or just a heavy dumping rain displacing a larger volume of air, and that's what a microburst is. If you've ever taken a big bucket and dumped it onto dry ground and the dust flies up where the water hits, it's the same thing as a microburst on a much grander scale. This storm is definitely losing steam, but it's going to take it 20-30 minutes minimum before it starts to really lose any volume. So this is what happened basically. Let's back it up 30 frames. You can see Baltimore City down here. Put that in motion, and we're not going to get that on this radar, so we're going to have to change radars anyway, but it's getting out of range. Of course, Dover radar is down right now. Figures. So this is our best radar at the moment. We can see that there's a microburst heading up Route 1, in between Route 1 and 22 right now, towards Darlington, towards me over in Havre de Grace and the river port deposit area. So that's blasting up through Street and Darlington up Route 1 on the south side. And that's what this shadow is right here. Let's see. Let me work on some cameras real quick. There are cameras at the Conowingo Dam. So this is in Harford County, Bel Air, Kingsville. It's just barely moving up Route 1 or the south side of Route 1. We are north of I-95 in Harford County, south of US Route 1 in that corridor through Singer Road area, South Fallston, Whitaker Mill. Looks like we're moving more towards Bel Air now, but we are still in the US Route 1, Benson, Fallston, and it looks like it's jogged to the left a little bit, but it's broadening out really good too, so that's a good sign. And your rotation would be right in the Fallston area, Benson bypass, heading towards where 24 connects, so heading towards Hickory. And it looks like it's more of a microbursting situation now on the backside of the storm. You can see that blasting off in that direction, and we may have rotation here. So it's like an inflow notch going on here. but it's not really well defined anymore. So it's definitely spreading out, but it's definitely in this area, just south of Route 1, heading right towards Bel Air South, a little bit north of Singer Road, a little bit south of Whitaker Mill, in that general area. Couplet is probably right about here. Very weak. These winds are not extremely fast. We're only talking 30, 40, 50 mile an hour winds. So it's slowed down. It was much brighter. But my real concern at this point are these winds blasting off. We've got a microburst situation heading off here. And it's either a hail core or another little bit of rotation happening up in Darlington. On the might even be like anticyclonic rotation on the north side of that microburst wave coming off here. You can see the wind wave as it's blasting out that direction towards rising sun. And that's why the severe thunderstorm warning is outlining that wind jet coming out of that storm. So it looks like it's collapsed down. It's really breaking up now. The tornado warning isn't as concerning at this point. It's spreading out. And this is probably just a brief spin up like we always see. It's heading towards Cecil County up US Route 1 now. And it's reaching the wind, the straight line winds are reaching Darlington now, but they're not extreme. On the radar, and this is the BWI radar, we're only talking about, 40 to 50 miles an hour at best in the sky, but that can be creating, 10, 15 mile an hour higher winds, 60, 65 mile an hour gusts at ground level due to things like the Venturi effect and, just the way the gusting works as it drops down. So it's definitely something to take quite serious. And when you have a rotation looking area involved in that, that's probably full of hail or extremely heavy rains, we can take a look and see. I can't find anything on the cameras. This is the only camera shot I can find that's worth looking at. Is the you can see this is Conowingo Dam in the bottom corner here. Let me pull that up for you. So this is looking back at the storm from the Cecil County side. This picture right here. This is live. You can see the black skies towards the south. And that is basically the microburst racing towards you guys. And if you watch, you can see, I'm not sure if you can see it. It's easier to see on YouTube than it is here, because you can turn it sideways and zoom in, but I'll make it as large as I can here and do like a split screen. So we'll watch that coming into the Susquehanna River region where the dam is. And that is the main concern now. The rotation is pretty much broken up, and the tornado warning I'm not worried about as much now. It's this blast of wind that can be damaging, and you can see on the camera right there live how the river is starting to fuzz away. Look, this is that blast coming right across Cecil County right now from the Harford County side across Conowingo Dam and the Susquehanna River. This gray fog creeping at us is that heavy rain and wind coming straight across the river as we speak. The storm is losing steam. If you listen, you'll hear lightning strikes are way down. They're not as violent sounding. Still going strong, but you've got 40 to 50 mile an hour winds coming through Darlington right now, up US Route 1 and into, and they've taken the severe thunderstorm warning down just now. but we still have the tornado warning for 14 more minutes. So let's change to, we're getting far away from the radar, but I just want to take a look at it and see the intensity from this distance. Yeah, we're looking pretty high in the storm, and that's what they're using to see what the radar looks like. But if we put it in motion 30 frames, we can see the whole evolution of this storm. It's still really hardly moved. So what's going on here is a lot of microbursting all around Fallston, Jarrettsville, Forest Hill, Kingsville, and you can see that, whoops, and the lightning strikes are creeping up Route 1 now in this heavy fog haze looking thing. And you can see the vehicles headlights shining really good on the road there because it's really, really raining hard. And you can see the spray coming up behind them as they drive by. The camera is horrible. This camera is on the tower across the road on the other side of the dam. Better resolution. So this is the Conowingo Pool here and the parking lot, park and ride at the top of the hill there by Conowingo Dam. Yeah, Kathy, this storm has been sitting over Fallston, Kingsville for at least 5 hours, maybe longer, and really storming hard. But here's what happened that caused this to flare up unexpectedly. While we're watching this come across, you can see the storm. This is 50 frames. So let's stop. Ouch. Starting at, what time is it now? So it's 8 o'clock now. This is starting at 4:58, the first frame. The storm is just sitting here, boiling, burning, boiling, and this secondary storm comes in that's moving forwards at 25, 35 miles an hour, and it collides, and you can see the flare-up that occurs in the lightning strike counts, the little plus signs. And here comes the secondary storm. And it just blasts it. Massive increase in electrical output and a massive increase in lightning strikes to the ground. So this tornado warning can be struck off of the system. It's not a concern at this point, but they're going to let it run its course just in case. I actually had a pretty decent hook there for a minute. So this is 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, and then 8. And it wrapped up as that secondary storm collided with it. It wrapped that storm up and spun it tight on the south end. So here's 6, 6:30, 7, and it's colliding. And it's hardly putting out any lightning at that point at 6:53. And then by 7:13, it's really getting going. They've collided with each other. And then there's a big hook at the end. So now it's starting to slow down. It's spreading out, which is a good sign as the storm's getting much wider. Let's stop the 50 frames and go back to 14. We'll do 7 frames. So this is current, the last 7 frames of radar, 7:54 until now, 8:04. And you can see it's got a hail core or secondary cell up in Cecil County now, crossing Route 1, putting out a good bit of lightning. And that same cell is still parked over Fallston, putting out lightning. These stationary spots like this, once they set up, it's hard to get them to stop. This could be coming off of the river and the heat from Perry Hall and the city, as that heat dome over top of the Baltimore City and the suburbs of US Route 1 all the way up to, into White Marsh. All that concrete and blacktop asphalt creates a mini heat dome, and these storms can shadow off in the direction of the winds, the prevailing winds. And that's what's happening here. This is basically the energy formed by Baltimore City itself. So it's definitely settling down some, and it's going to take some time to wind down. So as it gets further away from its generation spot, it becomes weaker as well. And you can see the dark reds start to lighten up into oranges. But we still have this tornado warning for a few minutes, but it's not as concerning now. But I think we definitely had a serious tornado there for a second as it wrapped up pretty tight. It's still kind of trying to have a hook on the back end. Let's take a look at the velocity radar again. And it's still rotating, still spinning, so this may even be extended. We're still looking at a decent connecting hook here. This is current radar. And we've got a decent couplet going on here. And then this is probably a hail core. And that's a typical supercell structure. Usually you'll get your hail core set up where hail and heavy rains are dumping out in the center of the storm. And then we get a rotation to the south as that air is being displaced from the storm itself, because heavy rain and hail has mass. And when it comes down in buckets like it's been doing right now, enough to cause heavy flooding, 1 to 2 inches per hour, it's also displacing air, which is what causes the microbursting and the high speed wind gusts. So as it's dumping out, it's pushing air out of the way and displacing it off in directions that are random, but usually in 1 or 2 of the same directions. So overall, when you get a supercell structure, you'll always have, let me start by saying first that the basic structure starts with a west to east movement overall. So the structure of the storm always, if it's moving in this direction, this is the structure. If it's moving north, you would turn the whole screen to match that arrow, whichever the overall direction of the storm is. So that being said, and I'll use a better color. Let's use yellow. Your hail core typically, and your heavy rain core will be in the center here, and you get a neutral reading or an opposite, a little bit of a circle going on there. That's where the hail and the heavy rains are dumping out the most, heaviest. Well, as it displaces that air, it has to rush back in somewhere underneath the storm. And that's why you see storms as they're forming and the tops are growing and billowing up in the sky. The air is flowing into them. So as that happens, it's breathing in, and that's the beginning of the life cycle of the storm. Due to the spin of the earth and the Coriolis effect, that air comes in certain directions, and you'll get an inflow notch a lot of times like this, where the storm is pulling in that fresh, warm, dry air, and then it's turning and going up into the sky. And when it does that, let me zoom in. And this is still fresh. It's still damn near stationary. And this rotation point is kind of like wobbling back and forth, back and forth. Now it's the rotation in the hook echo is almost right on 95, so I want to change the camera real quick before I continue explaining this, because it's starting to get pretty well defined again. I just want to take a look because it's right by 24. We may be able to see something. Let's take a look here. So that's 24.95 looking northbound, and that's where it would be. But you could see very dark skies on the right side, and that's exactly where it would be. So can't really see anything, but I'll make that bigger for you. And oops. I-95 north, where all the construction is right now. And you can see the camera looking to the right towards Edgewood is where we're looking on the camera, where the CO 1876.7 is on this camera shot. Look at the sky behind that in the upper right corner of the camera shot, and you can see that how darker that is over there. Well, that camera is going to be on this map. If I remember correctly, it is right in between the median and the off-ramp on the right side going northbound. And it is looking in, nope. So the camera's about right here, looking in this direction up 95 north. And the rotation keeps dancing. It was just on the right side of 95. Now it's over here and it's much looser. It was just right about here. Earlier it was back over here by Singer Road. So it's a very broad, weak, probably the hail core right here or heavy rain core on the north side of 95. So more or less, it's not a concern. Still, it keeps tightening up. If anybody is seeing anything, it's only moving 10 miles per hour. You know, just about jogging speed, really. And it's growing more than it's actually moving. So let's zoom back out. Well, while we're here, I'll continue what I was talking about. So on this kind of radar, what you're seeing is this rotation. Winds basically wrapping around each other. Coming in here. And that kind of indicates what's called a tornado vortex signature, or a couplet, and a couplet means where winds of opposite directions are connecting to each other. It's not very clear, very low speed, but they extended it. Looks like they just or not upgraded, but extended the warning. So let's get this off here real quick. There's nothing really to see anywhere, but I'll leave that up right there for you. But if you're in that area right there, and the winds are probably swirling, and you can see it's very, very heavy rain on the camera here. So you are new to the tornado warning that just got issued. This is the new one. They've extended the tornado warning to at 8:14 into how long? Where is it? Doesn't say. So now they're saying it is located near Riverside, 7 miles southwest of Aberdeen, moving east at 20 miles per hour, but it's dancing back and forth. There may be quarter-sized hail. Still radar indicated. Nobody has seen anything yet. No damage reports that I've heard so far. I'm going to turn my other... You might hear this in the background, but I just want to make sure I don't miss any. And the Harford County Fire EMS scanner went offline. It's weird. They must have got hit by power outages. So let's see. Luckily there's 3 of them. 214 third. Yep, pulling that right up in a second. I just wanted to read this and make sure it wasn't any different and change directions. So this is still very broad, weak rotation. Not indicating a heavy...
We're just going to do an extensive inspection to make sure we don't have to go back earlier. Okay.
No damage, debris ball. Turn that down a little loud. So we would see a bright blue surrounded by yellow if there was damage going on enough to throw stuff in the sky here with the correlation coefficient. So that's a good sign. Let's put that in motion again. That's a hail core shadow. The storm is slowing down. You can tell by the count of how hard the lightning is hitting over and over again. Before, at its peak, it was nonstop, extreme lightning, and thunder was steady. Now we're getting gaps in between the thunder hits. So that's slowing down the amount. So there's the hail core. Showing basically the shadow of the hail on the correlation coefficient, but no debris ball. That's good. Looking at the storm here, last 7 frames from 8:06 to 8:17. It's barely moved. It's only moving 10, 15 miles an hour at most. It would actually take the serious part of the storm probably an hour to get to Havre de Grace at this rate. So we can take a look. We're right here. This is where the tornado would be at the moment. And if we put it in motion, let's say if it was headed up Route 40 at 10 miles an hour, and these tornado warning boxes can be wrong because this thing is so slow, it's wobbling left and right, left and right. So keep that in mind. It may change again and be more towards Port Depositor, Darlington. So here's your timing. If this tornado was actually a real serious tornado and on the ground and moving at 10 miles per hour, and we had confirmations of that, this box right here will show you how long it's going to take to get to the next area. So Lumar Estates, 5 minutes. Abingdon, 9 minutes. Bush River, and like Long Bar Harbor, around that area of Route 40, 13 minutes from where it's at now, which is just north and east of Route 24. So 21 minutes just to get from one exit to the next exit, from 24 exit up to 543 exit at Bell Camp Riverside. This is a very, very slow moving storm. Aberdeen, 45 minutes. That's how slow this is. From 24 Bel Air Edgewood exit on 95, about where it's at now, just to Aberdeen would take 45 minutes. And any further than that, Haverty Gray, Swan Creek, up on the other side of Aberdeen, east of the Aberdeen exit, you're talking almost an hour to an hour and a half. That's how slow the storm is moving. It's not really moving, it's kind of like just rotating in place and throwing storm clouds off of itself to the east and north. So it's wobbled, it's changed direction left to right, and it has definitely lost power. It's about half of the power that it was at its peak. We're still going to see a lot of lightning strikes. It's still dangerous. You can see these lightning strikes are plus signs on the screen. And they time out after 15 minutes, they disappear. So they fade away to a brown, and then they disappear after 15 minutes. It's white when it's brand new. Whoops. It's it's at Bel Air, Edgewood, Falston, to Joppa, down 152, up Route 1 into Hickory, Fountain Green, 543, Cresswell to Riverside. It is absolute pandemonium on the fire scanner. There are a massive amount of reports of lightning strikes. There were several house fires at the same time, but the tornado warning is secondary to what's been going on. There was only a brief moment there where it had me worried. Now it's very broad and very slow, yet again, typical of what we see happen with most of our tornado warnings. So again, this could be canceled, but let's pull it up here a little better. Put this in motion. Give me 1 second real quick. The camera that's up right now, and I'm trying to pull some more up so we can take a look, keep a better eye on this, is 24 looking northbound at the 24 exit 195. And let's put this back in motion so I can keep an eye on it. We've got water rescues coming in, swift water rescues coming in on Route 1 in Bel Air. So still serious amounts of rain going on. And we're going to take a look if my computer will cooperate. I'm going to put up a couple more cams. We're going to do 95 and 543. Excuse me. Man, that thunder is wild. Wow. Good Lord. It is cranking at 543 exit right now. Unbelievable power. Very high winds. 543 and 95 exit. I'm pulling the camera up right now. The swiftwater rescue's happening. Look at this. This is 543 exit at 95 right now. 2300 Bel Air Road. Swiftwater rescue's happening in Falston, Bel Air, US Route 1. That's near Plaza Ford. I remember the address. Look at this. Traffic's nearly stopped here at 543 I-95. The wind's cranking. The rain is blowing. You can see really heavy rain and high winds happening here. Let's just go to the velocity radar. We don't need this. Reflectivity doesn't do us any good at this point. So it's trying to hook back up again. If you look on the left side of the screen here, that camera is just south of that. So the camera in view here is right in this area, and we are looking right at that high wind and rain, hail core slash possible rotation here. Very broad rotation. Couplet probably in here, maybe somewhere. It's not really well defined at all, so, but it's still rotating a little bit. It's not real high speed, but you can see on the camera there. Perryville's not quite. No, this isn't even to Havre de Grace yet. It's still moving very slow, 10 miles an hour up 95 and 40. Very, very slow. So, but this is coming. If it holds together, it could take almost an hour to get to Perryville. This is the next exit south at 24. It's letting up a little bit. The rotation is just north. Basically, the rotation is just in between 22 and 543 on I-95, in between I-95 and 40. So we are looking at, it's a very broad rotation. It's not too worrisome at the moment, but it's like over Stepney Road. I would say like approaching Aberdeen. It is just about on the north side of, of Route 40 there, and the south side of 95. Back in Stepney Road, Route 7, where Route 7 connects to Route 40. South, just south of Aldi's and Walmart in Aberdeen. It's very broad though. It's not concerning at this point. It's just there. But this is also where the hail core is, the heaviest rains, approaching Route 22 exit, which is where I'm at. I'm literally, there's El Dino Airport right here. So here's your massive core, and the rotation would probably be right in here right now, maybe up here, but it's not anything well defined enough at this point to worry about. And I am up here. I'm up in here. Right here. And I have a camera facing that direction. Let me pull them up. So it looks like it's putting a pretty good wind gust off towards Churchville right now. Let's pull that up. It's starting to microburst a little bit here to the north towards Campus Hills, Churchville, 155 and 136 where they meet Route 22. So that is an area blasting off in this direction. And that's going to go up 136 towards like Calmia, Todd Estates, Eagle Estates back in there where the big farms are off of 22 and 136 to the left. If you're headed towards Aberdeen and you make that left on the 136 north towards Darlington, that's the direction that the wind is coming off of this storm now. And that's a microburst type scenario. It looks like a little higher speed wind than the rest. But the storm is just barely moving 10 miles an hour. It's just now getting over top of 22 and 95 exit and Aberdeen proper. So between 95 and Route 40, right in Aberdeen, it's going to be rough right now. This is where it's going to be the worst, heaviest rain. Now let's change the camera. From 543, it's cleared up. So here's looking south. When you see flashers on cars, and it's so dark there that it's already turned to night vision. That's looking southwest down 95 towards Baltimore. And then towards the north, it's clear. So it's just approaching 22 and 95 exit. We'll keep that up right there. And you can see the cars are heading into it. So it's coming at us on this camera. So the tornado warning is still just to Havre Grace in the river. But there's not really a tornado happening at this point. It's just some broad rotation. I'm going to change back real quick to, we might be out of range now for BWI velocity, but yeah, it's still very broad. It's not well defined at all, but it's still got a good hook going on there. You know, very broad rotation. Not super serious like it was earlier. Let's see if we can get a better radar angle from, is Dover even working right now? Nope, Dover is off. Gotta be kidding me. Let's see if it's working anyway. Oh yeah, they're still having problems with their velocity scans. It was really broken up the other day and then yesterday, and they've been taking it offline to repair it, but the velocity is really bad. The reflectivity works okay, but that doesn't do us any good. So let's see, let's try. We might be in range. We're probably just out of range of Philly's airport radar. Yep. They're shutting down 24 northbound by Bel Air North. They just said on the monitor. So Bel Air's a mess. Avoid Bel Air at all costs. Let's try Fort Dix radar. About the same thing, just broad rotation. We're still looking pretty high up in the sky because we're out at the edge. We're in a radar hole. You can see Fort Dix is about the closest. Same distance really as Sterling. So you got to kind of flip it between them and take a good look. A lot of calls still coming in. So this is just now getting towards or over top of Aberdeen proper. Old Aberdeen here. Route 40. It's starting to get real windy here outside my window, and I'm up on the north side of the storm where the microbursts are coming off on this side. A little higher wind speeds are not that great though. You can see 20, 30, 40 miles an hour. It's when these bright colors start showing up is when we worry. Looks like it's going to microburst off in this south direction towards Aberdeen Proving Ground and the bay. We got some 40 mile an hour, 42. So it's microbursting out. That's a good sign, actually. It's collapsing in on itself. The lightning has slowed down a lot. Let's take a look at the structure of the storm. Hydrometer classification. It's still got a little bit of hail in it. And the red is heavy rain or hail. And then it disappears on the next scan. So put it in motion. It's having trouble maintaining its hail core and heavy rain core. So if we put more frames and back it up even more in time, we can see it's a lot better hail, big hail in Bel Air. And then now it's definitely losing steam. So it doesn't even have a severe thunderstorm warning on it anymore. We only have special marine warnings and special weather statement tornado warning. 7 more minutes. As long as this tornado warning stays as weak as it is, we should be all right. It's really broad now. I'm still not worried about this tornado warning. It's the winds coming off of it and the lightning that definitely worries me. Surprised I still have power. If I lose power, I'll just disappear. So, Mary Jones, we are east of Bel Air now, but Bel Air got hammered. You may not be able to get a hold of them. There's a lot of power outages. There's water rescues happening. There's all kinds of road closures. And there were multiple house fires from lightning strikes. This is probably the most extreme lightning strike electrical storm we've ever had in the past 10 to 15 years or longer. Definitely the hottest, electrically speaking, storm we've had in quite a long time, and I'm sure everybody in the comments will agree. Now, it's not really picking back up. What's happening is, Amanda, the back end of the storm is moving through, and that's where a lot of that lightning is being generated. So you can see, let me put the arrow back. The center of the storm, or the hail core, rain core, the core of the storm is right in here, over top of Aberdeen right now. And the lightning's being generated, but it's a positive generation storm. For some reason, the lightning is tending to shoot out the back towards Bel Air. And it's been doing that for hours. So you're still getting a lot of bolts out of the back of this storm, and it's gusting out the back of the storm as well. So that's a sign that it's collapsing, but at the same time, it doesn't change much because you're in the middle of it. So the storm is moving northeast towards Havre de Grace at 10 miles per hour, very slow. But it's shooting lightning out the back. It's got a gust coming off towards the south. And it's got winds coming out almost steadily towards the northeast and north as it's working its magic. It's like a big engine, basically. So I think it's collapsing down, though. Let's take a look at that. We put echo tops, that'll tell us how high the tops are. You click on echo tops on the radar, The higher the storm is, the stronger it is. And when you put it in motion, you can see the bright pinks right over Bel Air and Falston. And these things cycle up and down. So when you see those bright pinks, that's a hitting 60,000, 65,000 feet, massive storm. Let's do 30 frames. Back it up some more. Well, let's do 50. I want to see the storm was strong, and then that second storm came to the north along the Maryland PA line down to about Cockeysville and collided with this thing. And that's what really set it off. It spun it up and it added a bunch of energy. So here's where they collided, and then all of a sudden bright pinks, and then they collapse, they puff back up, they collapse, they puff back up. And when they collapse, that's when those microbursts and big dumps of hail come out from underneath of them, and you see the winds blow out in every direction. So when you see those bright pinks, that's when it's maxing out, and that's when it's at its most powerful. I'm getting some high winds here, about 40 miles an hour. And that's where I was just saying that it was blowing the wind out to the north and northeast. You can see it. Hear that whistling in the background. That's my windows whistling. I got it open a little bit. So that's this jet of wind coming out of that storm right now. And that's where I'm located. I'm at 155 and 161. One rock run right here. That's where I'm at. So the radar is showing us exactly what I'm hearing. I'm right here. And the winds are blowing from Aberdeen straight up here around 30, 40 miles an hour. You can hear it in the background, probably on the microphone. Doesn't look like there's been actual any touchdowns yet, but we probably won't know. It only had a serious, yeah, it's microbursting now, which is a collapse. So we've got some microbursting going this direction, in this direction. So anybody that's in there, basically, the storm is kind of collapsing as it's moving forwards really slow. It's still not the Havre de Grace. It's in between Aberdeen and Havre de Grace. And on the camera at the bottom, you can tell it's flashing pretty good at 24 off in the distance, but it's not raining. Let's look at the Havre de Grace exit camera. It's not a good camera though. So now the top camera is Havre de Grace exit, and I am literally 2 miles to the left up 155 there. And then let's change the other cam. Yikes! That almost hit my house. I could feel a tingle from that. That's why I stuttered before it even cracked. That was wild. Let's get up here. Get this camera at the Aberdeen exit looking north. And you can see that's Ripken Stadium on the left side of the 95 there. So traffic's getting backed up. This is 22 at 95, looking north at the back of the storm. And then the other camera is at 155. Aberdeen Thruway, wires on fire. Let's change this to the southbound camera. Oh, it's dead. So this is at the Tidings Bridge, this top camera now. traffic cam looking from 95 just south of the Tidings Bridge, looking up the hill there to the north. So it's hammering pretty good there as well. The Lapidum Road cam is down and looking at, this is 155 exit. And we're looking at southwest. So the storm's really falling apart. The rotation you can see on the screen there. Remember I said a few minutes ago that it was collapsing. So it doesn't look like the storm's going to be much. Tornado warning is gone. There's no severe thunderstorm warnings. It's just putting out a lot of lightning and a lot of rain right now. We've got flash flood warnings for Forest Hill, Bel Air, Hickory, all the way up to Calmia Road, and I'm sure Deer Creek is probably going to end up flooding over top of Scarborough Road and in that area, so don't even attempt to try to go down there in the dark. You may end up trapped as it's coming up fast. I've seen that happen before to people, and they end up having to get water rescues. It's just bad. So we've got lightning from a separate storm further north, and they've turned the radar back on at Dover, but it's definitely not right. I don't know what's going on with the Dover radar. They've been fixing it for weeks. They're talking about Bully Rock having problems. So Havre de Grace, Aberdeen, Perryville, you'll be next. It's about to cross the river. If it's not hammering there already, it will be soon. But the storm is shrinking, you can tell. Yep, Joppa and Edgewood, you still have lightning strikes happening. So don't be outside, but the worst is over. You're going to have flash flooding until probably midnight, though. The streams and creeks are going to be coming up over the roads. So be careful where you're driving. But you can see here now. Let's go to 21. I use 21 frames because that's about an hour's worth. So we're doing about 21 frames now. It's different with each radar. Depends on how far out you are, too. Let's do 14. So from 8 o'clock until now, more lightning strikes. This is the most lightning strike fire calls I've ever heard in my life. It's insane. Dundalk's in the clear. Baltimore City's in the clear. Baltimore County's in the clear. Except for the Perry Hall, Route 1 to Kingsville, Fork, Harford Road flooding is a serious problem, especially on Harford Road down there in those valleys along the water, the river. But the storm is out of Baltimore County, and the lightning is still striking pretty hard along Route 40 and Route 95. It has left Bel Air finally and cleared out. So now we're talking about Perryman, Aberdeen Proving Ground, all along both sides of Route 40 and both sides of 95. It's pretty much constrained down to that point now. Route 22 towards 95. There's heavy flooding in Aberdeen now. We've got heavy flooding in this whole region, and there's water rescues happening along Route 40 and all of those roads that are along the Route 40, Route 7 corridor. Do not attempt to drive through there. And you got brush fires from lightning strikes. There are house fires from lightning strikes. Automatic fire alarms going off. There's heavy flooding on Bel Air Road. There's heavy flooding in Falston, Bel Air, Joppa, all over the place. If you're in Harford County and you need to drive somewhere, do not attempt it. So it's going to be a mess all night. And the reason this happened is because a secondary storm came up behind this stationary storm that is still kind of forming off of the heat dome of Baltimore City, rammed into it, collided, and helped it spin up and become a much stronger storm. So let's look at the specs of the storm now. Velocity is still a mess. I don't know what's going on with that Dover radar, but that's useless. I mean, look at that. I've never seen it do that before. I'm sure there'll be a conspiracy theory about this in a reel later tonight. So we're just on the edge of Fort Dix. Route 40. Route 40 in Aberdeen has multiple trees down and wires down on it. So if you're trying to get home, you're going to have a lot of problems in Aberdeen. You're going to have a lot of problems in Bel Air and Falston, Kingsville, Joppa, all along Route 40, all along any of the exits towards Route 40 off of 95. And you're not going to be able to cross any of those roads where the water rides along beside it. Like Winter's Run is probably underwater at this moment. There's water rescues happening all over southern Harford County. But the storm is falling apart. It's still generating a lot of lightning, and it will until it has absolutely rained itself out. But is only a little bit of broad rotation just south of Havre de Grace, southwest along Route 40. Very broad, and that's just indicating basically what's happening is that's the core of the storm approaching Havre de Grace. Still rotating broadly, but moving up Route 40 and dumping its rain out. From Swan Creek to Adams Mobile Home Park up there where Route 40 connects to Havre de Grace. And this is probably going to move to Perryville, Perry Point, Carpenter Point over there where the campgrounds are. You're going to get heavy, heavy rain in the Northeast River area, Charleston to Perryville, along Route 40 and Route 7 up through there. And then you're going to get more of the winds towards Port Deposit and up 273 or 276. I mean Perryville Road. You know, like where the casino and the big hotel is. That's about the limit where the storm is still going to be rough. So the storm is shrinking. It could still get another tornado warning if this tightens up over the flats. That's what I'm worried about right now. We might see this little bit of a core here recharge itself off of the heat and the humidity from the Susquehanna Flats. It's just about there now. So it could spin up back tight again, and the Northeast River along like Carpenter Point to Charlestown, up by where the Wellwood is and all. And then on the other side where Elk Neck State Park is, and Camp Rodney and all that, we could see a bit of a rotation reform here as this gets out over that hot water. The Susquehanna Flats are like 75, 76 degrees right now. And this still has a rotation going on like this right here. There's a secondary little bit of spot right here, but that's what I'm worried about. This is moving along here real slow. So it's parked just about where it can start pulling out all of this hot water. And here's the Susquehanna Flats. Most of that is shallow enough that you can walk through it. and the calls are just coming in steady from Aberdeen. So this storm should still have a severe thunderstorm warning on it, really, because it's hammering. Chapel Road's getting blocked in places. Power lines are down all over Aberdeen now. Along Route 40, there are trees down on Route 40 and power lines down. But this isn't a storm that you need to hide from, Carly. No, you're okay. It's just you're going to hear a lot of lightning, and you can see the lightning is really spreading out. But the storm has shrunk down a lot. It's just I'm worried about those winds picking back up and getting 40, 50, 60 mile an hour. But the storm is tiny. I mean, this is a tiny storm. Look at this compared to what we normally see. And still very, very strong for its tiny size. And you can see it just keeps reforming and reforming and reforming more than it is moving. It's like it's regenerating over and over right through here. Puffs back up, starts over. Puffs back up and starts over. And that was that first storm colliding with it. And then just watch this area. It just puffs back up over and over. It moves off, another one pops up, a new storm pops up over and over, and then it keeps training off into the distance. So that's regeneration, and that is what's causing all this power. Yeah, it is starting to regenerate. Look at the lightning. Lots of lightning an hour and a half ago. It started slowing down. Hardly any lightning. Still hardly any lightning. And then as soon as this core gets out over this water, watch. Lots of lightning. So you guys are going to get a lot of lightning in Cecil County. Along Route 40, along Route 7, the Northeast River. Unplug your electronics now. You don't want these power surges. And there's transformers blown up in Aberdeen. There's transformers and wires down. There's house fires happening with this storm. This is still very electrically powerful. There's no storms worth talking about anywhere else at the moment, but there are storms moving slowly across and into Hagerstown. Let's turn these frames back down so we can see what's happening. There's a little cell here along 81 moving into Hagerstown that's going to be noisy, but it's hardly putting out any power. Nothing is like this storm. This is just a very unique situation here. And it's got a secondary cell up in Newark, Elkton area that's pounding out a lot of electricity between Westchester, Wilmington, and Newark along Route 1, along Wilmington, north on the PA border, all the way down to the Maryland corner where Fair Hill is. So this cell here, Pike Creek Valley, over to Oxford, West Grove, Kennett Square. A lot of lightning strikes in this one too. This little cell is nasty. That's where Route 7 goes north up into Pike Creek Valley and then up into Pennsylvania, Delaware Route 7. But the main concern is still this storm. And look, as I was worried about here, it's gotten over top of the Susquehanna Flats and it's darkened back up. Where it was losing steam, it's getting fatter again. So let's look at the velocity. And it's very broad, so that's not a concern. Still no tornado warning, and there's none needed. But it is drawing in that power and tapping that warm water of the Susquehanna Flats to generate more electricity. And we're getting a lot of lightning strikes on the Northeast River and along Route 40 and Route 7 in Cecil County now. But we're still getting a lot of storm lightning coming out of the back of the storm, and that's where the worst of it is. Nope, nothing on I-66, but there's a big broad area of storms approaching I-81 in the mountains. And there's one in Romney headed towards Winchester, Cape and Bridge area. But these are nothing like the storm. The main storm we're talking about here is the only storm that's really of trouble and still causing a lot of damage. Even though it doesn't have a severe thunderstorm warning on it, it should, just because of lightning. And you can see how it's broadening back up while it's over top of the Susquehanna Flats here, top of the bay, where the Susquehanna River meets right at Havre de Grace. I'm still hearing winds from up here, and that's crazy. That wind is still howling like that. That means it's drawing back in. So the storm's trying to get going again. It won't be able to do much, but it will flare back up a little bit. So we might see a rotation develop over the flats is what I'm worried about. As it recharges, it might try to spin back up in this general area where it's very warm water. Let's move the cameras up 95 and see what's going on. So we are at Perryville, Frenchtown Road. We'll keep an eye on that camera, and then our other camera. Let's move that up to 222 and I-95. That's northbound. I want southbound. Let's look at the storm coming in. There we go. So the southbound camera, a little more blurry and hard to see because the rain's coming at it. And I'll make those a little bigger for you guys to watch. A little bit easier. So we are looking at 222 south towards the river at the bottom. And at the top we're at Frenchtown Road. So you are, Michelle, if you're in Chesapeake City on the canal, man, that lightning is wicked. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be able to pick back up. But Elk River, Northeast River, and the canal has a special marine warning on it. So if you're on a boat, anchor immediately on the C&D canal, but you're on the south side of the storm, just a little bit further where you're going to get into the winds and the heavy rain might rush by Chesapeake City. But it's kind of headed more to the north. So Chapel Road is closed in multiple places from Havre de Grace to Aberdeen. There's trees down all over it, and a lot of those back roads you're not going to be able to get through. So if you're trying to get around flooding, Do not drive into it, but you're going to have to be patient and find your way around. There's detours everywhere due to trees down. You might just want to go somewhere and sit and wait it out. It might be an hour or two at least before they can get some of the main roads open, and the back roads could be all night. Flash flooding is a problem still in Bel Air. They've got road closures all over Harford County, from central Harford County, US Route 1, from Hickory south. I have a feeling the usual places like Route 7, there's a lot of places that get flooded out. 136, James Run, don't attempt to drive down those roads. Calmia Road and Walters Mill Road are going to be problems more than likely later this evening if they're not already flooded out. The water's going to come up real fast. You might have problems. They're still having problems. Falston, Bel Air Road, in that general area, and I'm sure Whitaker Mill, all of those Singer Road, Winters Run area, Route 7 and Winters Run, like Winters Run in, those areas will be flooded out if they are not already. So this flooding is going to be ongoing into the evening. The storm's only moving like 10, 15 miles an hour. It's been 4 or 5 hours just from the Kingsville area to Havre de Grace. Still seeing a lot of lightning flashes here. And that's the biggest problem right now is going to be this regeneration we're seeing of lightning as it's picking up that water off the Susquehanna Flats. But the storm is overall dying out and shrinking fairly quickly now. So we haven't had any warnings on it in a good half hour or more. No tornado warning, no severe thunderstorm warning. The wind gusts are only about 30 or 40 miles an hour at most. And the rotation is pretty much gone. You can see here there was a good bit of rotation, and it kind of flared back up in between Havre de Grace and Aberdeen for a minute there for a couple of oh, thunder again in Falston. What you're hearing in Falston are these long distance hits. In my posts earlier, I was talking about these lightning strikes being able to shoot out really far, and you can see there's one right there, 5 miles from the core of the storm, easy. So the lightning is generated in the center where you see these discoloration area, and then where it hits the ground is where the plus sign shows up. This does not show the cloud to cloud lightning, which is twice as intense right now. And that's what most of the lightning that you're hearing thunder wise is coming from, when it was steady, especially. But the ground strikes are only marked out on these maps because they are dangerous, obviously. So those ground strikes can strike out 10 to 15 miles. Actually, a new record I heard yesterday or today, maybe it was earlier. No, I think it was yesterday, down by New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama, on the Gulf Coast. They had a 21-mile strike. So that's insane for a lightning bolt to be able to hit that far away. But up in Lancaster, there's a cell. And let's change this over to standard reflectivity so you can see. So this is lightning that's coming backwards out of the storm still and striking in the storm itself. The core is over in Cecil County by Northeast River, almost to Charlestown. So here's your core. And then there's a little bit of a core here too. And then you've got all these lightning strikes coming out. So any plus sign that you see outside of that area is a longer distance strike to the ground. And they're talking about explosions in Aberdeen, all kinds of crazy stuff. So it's still bad in Aberdeen. But these plus signs are where the lightning strikes the ground only. Does not account for cloud to cloud or other types of the lightning that can be going on in these storms. It is trying to spin back up a little bit. Look at that. I knew that was going to happen. So as it draws that air in, that hot, warm, humid air off of the river and the Susquehanna Flats, it's helping regenerate the storm just a little bit. Not enough to worry about, but you've got the return of the double core. See, look at that. That's a new scan. So the next couple scans that this takes, this area, this core is going to be rebuilt a little bit, and then we're going to see right after that, as it gets over towards Chesapeake City, which it looks like it's turned. The thing's been wobbling the whole time. This track has been like madness, wobbling because it's been left and right, left and right. When they go slow, they wobble. Uh, we only get basic tornado warnings here. We don't get advanced tornado warnings. The most advanced, we won't get a tornado emergency here. That would require an EF3 or higher, winds over 150 miles an hour, and confirmed on the ground before a damaging tornado. Basically, like what happened in 2002 in La Plata. Um, we rarely get EF1 tornadoes here damage, which is basically trees into structures, not direct wind damage. We haven't had a direct wind damage tornado here in years, and it's very rare. There's only been 6 tornadoes on the East Coast higher than EF3 since the records have been kept in 1950, I believe. So a tornado emergency is not something you need to worry about here. That would be extremely odd and a first, honestly, um, due to the geographic layout of the area. There's reports of some kind of commercial building explosion in Aberdeen somewhere going on. But our biggest concerns are flash flooding by far. Tornado warnings here, probably less than 1% are actually verified. Of all of the tornado warnings that are actually confirmed or even videoed and seen, they are EF0 to EF1 at most. We've had an EF2 in the past 5 years. Our tornadoes here are baby tornadoes. They are toddler tornadoes at best. We do not get those Midwest monsters here in the Mid-Atlantic. So what you would need is a serious setup, and we would see that coming. There would be tornado watches, and everybody on Facebook, everybody on social media, period, that does the weather like this would be freaking out the day before, basically. Um, that kind of setup would be 3,000 plus Cape index and a severe cold front with 20, 30-degree temperatures on the backside for that to happen. It's exceedingly rare. The last tornado we had above EF3 was, or F3 was, La Plata, Maryland, in 2002. That was a freak thunderstorm and a freak tornado, one of a kind. and it was the only one that happened for the 30 years before that, and it's the only one that's happened in the 20 some years after. So, in 23 years after, there was a Delaware tornado that was pretty stout, and you can see this thing is spinning back up again. Look at that. Like just like I said it would, trying to reorganize. And we see this happen all the time where these rotating storms can pick up energy off the bay this time of year. After May 30th, 31st, um, Memorial Day, the water gets warmer than the surrounding air at night, so it can help recharge storms in the evening. Tomorrow is going to be a straight line wind event. We're looking at microbursting, downbursting storms that have that 50 to 60 mile an hour blast coming out of them in the front or off to the sides. And it's probably really going to be, and I can throw it on here. The day 2 wind outlook is this yellow stripe. So basically the I-95 corridor, NWS Storm Prediction Center office, SPC outlook, that's what this is. They're very generous always in their layouts. So 5%, that's what we were in today. 15%, it just means we may see a few more storms that have the potential to cause that microbursting, downbursting. And there's always the risk of these basic tornado warnings that we get here. But I would say within this area, from the modeling that I saw, tomorrow afternoon and evening, the biggest area is going to be right along 95 and really after the bay. The Wilmington, Philadelphia area is where I'm really worried about it happening. So these areas, it's going to be a small, narrow area. When you look at the map, as it moves through west to east, it'll be tilted a little bit. It's going to be one of those squall line events, and it's not going to be everybody that gets it. It's just going to be a couple of cells like we normally see. So I wouldn't stress about it too much. It's going to be short-lived. It'll be one of those systems where big black clouds come through, and then you've got a big blast of wind, and depends on the timing of who gets it when it shows up. But when they come out of the mountains is when it happens. So let's look at this. Storm's still shrinking up pretty good now, but there's more storms coming. We've got Hagerstown. There's some lightning going on, but it's not severe. It's nowhere near as bad. It's just that one cell that's remaining, and that's losing its steam pretty quickly. Look how small it is now. Still a lot of lightning because it's drawing that energy off of the Susquehanna Flats. And it's still shooting some lightning around. Pretty good amount of lightning, as you can see here. So Northeast River, Elkton to Northeast, Chesapeake City. You're going to get some lightning, but it's really short-lived now. You can see on the cameras at 222, it's already shrunken out past 95. It's not even causing a problem there. So only these really dark reds. If they were pink and purple, it would be worrisome, but basically it's just residual effects now. And every hour, because it's moving slow at 10 miles an hour, it's taking it forever to move. Every hour towards midnight that we get cuts the energy available to it in half, exponentially just about. So just like there's a peak 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, magic hour, 3 to 4 p.m., and then from 4 to 6, we get the nastiest of the storms. The opposite happens at night as we swing to the bottom of the temperature. What area is that, Lisa? Just out of curiosity. Is that the Oden tornado? There's a little better view. We might be within Philadelphia Airport's radar. Just barely. We'll take a look at it. Yep, still rotation there. So that rotation is reformed off of the warm waters of the Elk Neck State Park area, Susquehanna Flats, Northeast River, Elk River, heading right towards Chesapeake City, but this is not a rotation worth worrying about. You might have a little bit of a bowl hanging down if you could see it at night, and you might have a little bit of a twisty, swirly funnel cloud hanging off the bottom of the storm, but you're not going to be able to see it now anyway, and more than likely to be rain wrapped, but that is a little bit of a rotation. Let's put it in 7 frames, shorten that up. Still getting, look at that, bam. Let's change the radar back. I'm going to see that. I think we just had a long range lightning strike. No, clouds still there. They're not really doing anything because that's where I'm at. I'm literally right here, Rock Run Road. So I'm here, and this is right over top of me, but it's not doing anything. I'm looking right at it on the radar. I mean, on my cameras. You guys want to see some cool pics? So the threat's just about over for Harford County. Only Havre de Grace, Aberdeen is still getting some lightning strikes, but the worst is done with. It's the flooding that's been left behind that's the problem. For the next 2 hours, we're still going to have serious flooding, but it's safe to go to bed. If you're at home, you don't need to worry about anything else happening with winds or tornadoes or anything like that. It's just the residual flash flooding of roads in the area in Harford County. Cecil County, you still got a lot of lightning strikes happening around the water. So Northeast River, Elk River, C&D Canal, Chesapeake City. You're getting a lot of lightning strikes, and the storm has shrunk down a lot back to a normal size storm. There are no severe thunderstorm warnings or tornado warnings, and there are not going to be at this point in the storm's life cycle. It's at the end of its life cycle, so, but it is trying to spin back up. Look at that. I knew it would do that. It's just from watching these patterns over and over and over again all my life. Is how I can predict this stuff, only through experience. So you've got a nice little, well, they just killed it there, but it cycles. More or less like this. Very broad, very weak rotation around the core. But we're talking 10-mile-an-hour winds. This is not something to worry about. If you're in Chesapeake City, it's going to be loud. 35, 40-mile-an-hour gusts coming off the south side of the storm. And that might be its final breath coming out of the storm there. As it gets back over to land, it's going to start choking back off. It may not make it to Delaware Bay, Delaware City, but the wind speeds are way down. The size overall is way down. The lightning strike count is way down. These are all good indicators of a dying storm. There's a cell up in a little bit of a microburst cell up here, but you're talking 20, 30 mile an hour winds, nothing severe, nothing dangerous. 58 miles an hour is considered the threshold for severe winds. That's where damage starts occurring to tree limbs that can be knocked down and cause damage to structures or power lines and pull them down. So the heavy rain is done for Bel Air and up to Aberdeen, Harford County, Baltimore City. You're all done for the night. You're safe to go to bed. Pretty much you could go to bed if you need to in Elkton, in Cecil County, Northeast, Middletown, Delaware, Bear, Delaware. You're going to be hearing thunder and lightning flashes approaching Pike Creek Valley in Wilmington, North Wilmington. You've got a little cell there that's putting out a lot of lightning still, and it's going to be noisy. But these storms are not severe. They are no longer, exactly dangerous except for heavy rain and lightning. So if you're next to Northeast River, then you're probably getting a lot of lightning because the core just moved out of the Northeast River and is up over by where the C&D Canal connects to the Elk River. You can see here, Chesapeake City, where the 213 bridge is. And then horrible. Somebody in Aberdeen worried about their mother running out of oxygen because the power's off. That's a dangerous concern. Well, David, we don't have many dynamics left here. But the storm is still rotating broadly. You can see here, this is the velocity radar, and I've customized my velocity radar colors for our area to show more of an extreme change in the lower bands, in the slow speeds, because that helps me determine what's really happening, if the storm is growing or not. And you can see here is basically a couplet happening, but it's so slow that it's gray, which is the center of the scale. Pretty much zeroed out. And when the storm is moving only 10 miles an hour forward speed, you've got 20 to 30 mile an hour winds rotating around the core. That's enough to cause a rotation and a couplet to be picked up by the automated systems of NWS. And that's where we get our tornado warnings at most of the time. But this guy here, you can see more or less like a microburst blast coming off here. And considering the storm is moving very slowly, there's no real need to use the storm relative velocity. But if I change it to that, that's more standardized compared to what you're used to seeing. And you can see there's the rotation, the greens and the reds. If we put it in motion, you can see how it's rotating right here. It starts over here, 911, 920, 927. So it's picking up a little forward speed. That's a good thing. That'll help dissipate it even more. So very slow, very broad rotation. You can see here. Whoops.
response, 61-year-old female, full possible head injuries. Caller cannot provide a room number, so I'll try and see if I can look at previous calls or service. 2240 or red 3 yellow.
And it moved. So this is a couplet, and you've got your winds coming in like this. But we're talking a 10 to 20 mile an hour couplet, so it's not worth talking about, but it's still there. The storm is still rotating, and that's due to the fact that it's dumping out heavy rain just to the north. So the core would be right about here, and then inflow, you know, more or less underneath the storm at ground level, but this isn't worth talking about, honestly. It's just there as a rotation. However, I have the ability to back it up. 50 frames, 75 frames. We put that in motion. You can see it cycle up and down in strength by getting brighter and duller, brighter and duller. Let's back it up 100 frames and really show it. So it's out of range. But it's over here. It's moving very slow. It's just bubbling in place. And then it tightens up a little bit. And there it's nice and tight again. But still only 30, 40 miles an hour. And then it's tight again because of the river. It tightened back up for a minute. So more or less that's just a very slow moving, rotating supercell. It's easier to see with my radar coloring watch how much better this looks. Because it's slow speeds, and my color scale is steeper at the lower speeds, more pronounced. It helps me detect the lower speed storm winds. But look at that lightning output. That's insane right there as it got over top of Bel Air. There goes a microburst off in this direction, and that ended up becoming another storm. There's the core rotating still. Lost it, and then it tightens back up as it crossed the river and got back out over land. Now, let's change it to, because we're over at Fort Dix. Let's change it to BWI radar, which is much lower. Short range velocity, base velocity, 100 frames. And you can really see how that thing is moving and how it's rotating. Bubbling in place, barely moving. Tightens up here. So it's rotating and it's microbursting. And now it's spreading out as it dies. You can see it gusting out right there. Had a little bit of a gust front on it. And that's a sign of death. So you can see the microbursts going off here. And then sometimes they can become their own storm. It's blowing winds out this direction while it's bubbling and rotating down here. Looks like we got some kind of problem here on 222. Either the road's closed or it's an accident. Something's happening on 222 southbound 95. I've never seen a car off the side of the road like that. So we've got some kind of incident here. And here comes the ambulance. And they're using the camera to, that's MDOT moving the camera around to see what's going on. Looks like we've got a blocked 95 southbound at Maryland 222, which is Perryville exit. And they've got the road closed. And this is up on the exit. This is not 95 southbound. This is Route 222, not I-95. So they've turned the camera to look at this accident. Looks like a bad accident at the intersection. This is the intersection where 222 crosses 95 by Denny's, and the entrance to I-95 on ramp. That's that red light. So this is 222 looking northwest from the I-95 camera. And they've turned the camera off of I-95. We are looking down Route 222 now. A bad accident at the red light there where the I-95 southbound off-ramp comes off of Route 222, and the entrance to the Denny's and the mini truck stop there at the top of the hill. Further down the road here on the left is the entrance to the casino and the general area there. So we've got a bad accident here at the red light. Took me a minute to figure that out. Kind of tired. I've got some wild images on my camera. So Harford County is still a mess. Parts of Baltimore County is still a mess. But the storm has moved up into the Elkton area now. It's lost most of its steam. It's no longer severe warned. I'm not going to stay on here much longer. But I'll show you my cams, what I'm seeing. Oops. On my storm cams. And that's me. And that's the storm. Look at that. Backside of the storm clouds there. That's live. Pretty wild. And then I can see the moon on my west-facing storm cam. And then that storm off in the distance on the right bottom corner of my cam there is the one out in Elkton. I mean, out in Hagerstown. So you're going to see some lightning off in the distance, what they call heat lightning, but there is no such thing as heat lightning. But that storm in Hagerstown is pounding away. Lots of lightning, but it's not dangerous otherwise. Let's take a look at that one. You can see these guys are putting out a lot of lightning, but as it got into the valley there, it kind of grew quickly.
up the tree to the house. We notified this building inspector who advised he would be making a response tomorrow morning.
So this is where I'm at in near Havre de Grace. These are my cams, live. And on this camera off in the distance, you can see that little light right there. That's Conowingo Dam. About 5 miles north of me. We're looking across Susquehanna State Park. And then you can see all my lightning bugs. And this is the last day that I'm supposed to be here. I won't be living here any longer. The owner died. There's the front porch view, looking towards Aberdeen. At this storm, the back end of that storm, still striking a lot of strikes in the Aberdeen area, and still making it pretty bright here, but pretty neat view where the sun's going down in the distance in between these storms, looking north. So that storm did reform, like I said it would. Remember, I said it would pick up that steam off of the Susquehanna Flats and then try to spin back up. And that's exactly what's happened. So now, let's go to 21 frames, monitor this one. So it's not that it's really that big, but it's putting out a lot of lightning again. And it's spun back up somewhat. Let me put my cameras away. Let's go to Del Dot cams real quick and see how it's looking, because it's crossed the Delaware border. So that's 896, raining real hard, and you can see the curtains coming across. Their cameras will give you whiplash because they whip around. Let's look at 95. At the toll, you can see the winds blowing pretty good, but not that bad. Just heavy rain, gusty winds, a lot of lightning. So this is the toll plaza at 95 and Delaware. Cranking a lot of lightning, but the wind and the rain's not extreme. Traffic's flowing pretty well. And that's right at 896. Right in the core of the storm. This is the worst part of the storm right here. A little bit of radar right there, right there. You can see that heavy reformation. It's basically from 95 south along 896 is the worst of it, but it's still not that bad. Most of our severe thunderstorm warnings lately have been precautionary in case it does try to really get going again. But let's try 40, and this is a good one because the light lets you see. I like this cam because you can see how the rain is flowing. Whoa, buddy. That was insane. So, you've got flowing curtains of rain and 30, 40 mile an hour winds, but it's not too bad. It's probably not really necessary to have a severe thunderstorm warning on this, but it's precautionary because it's still rotating. It's still got that little bit of a rotation right there. You can see on the left side of the screen. And we are right in the rotation. with this camera here. And can't see anything. That's where the construction is, so let's check this one. Yeah, you can see how the rotation in the wind is blasting across the road there. And that's at 896. So we are right here, 896, just south of 95, the next little exit there. So on the map, oops, where my hand is moving, there's the rotation, the core of the storm, the worst of it, and then on the camera, that's where we're at. So not that bad, actually. Crazy looking, but not super dangerous. Just heavy rains and wind. Let's take a look up to the front a little bit. And there's the next camera up on Route 40. Well, actually, we are at 72 in Old Baltimore Pike. Whoever's using that camera needs to have their taste slapped out of their mouth. Oof. Even further north up Old Baltimore Pike. Heavy curtains of rain. So that's the worst of the storm. This is where the core of the storm is and what's causing the severe thunderstorm warning. But it's really not that bad. It's just got that rotation. You can see on the map in the left corner, that sliver of the radar. Just very broad, weak, slow rotation. Let's put this down. Back to normal size. And let's choose the 896 camera. Are they ever going to finish that? Construction is ridiculous. Whoa, what happened? Travis, I can't say. Sorry. I have a state's attorney that's telling me not to tell anybody what my plans are still. Reason being, I was in a robbery and shot by a gang member. The gang member is locked up. How did we get all the way up here from Delaware? Just gonna reset it. Every now and then it goes crazy. But I cannot say where I'm going yet. It's still up in the air a little bit, but I do have plans. And thanks to everybody's help, I'm able to make those plans hopefully tomorrow. But the state's attorney does not want me talking on the internet about where I'm going and what my plans are doing until they're done. So here's the up. Oh, sorry. This is the rest stop area in 95. But I will eventually announce that things are okay tomorrow, probably once I find out for sure and get locked in. I do have a plan. It's just been a big mess, and hopefully I can get it straightened out tomorrow for sure. But because of the gang member that shot me and did kill me for 12 minutes and is now in jail, he's got family members that are also career criminals, and they are known to be part of that crew in Baltimore City that goes after witnesses and victims. So that this storm is pretty much done with, really. It's got a severe thunderstorm warning on it, but what we need is severe thunderstorm warnings on these other storms, and this Hagerstown storm, Chambersburg storm. If you're listening, NWS, which I know they do, listen to me. This should be severe thunderstorm warned. The storm is quite strong. Let's look at that cameras here. Come on, knock it off. Oh, they're getting the rescue boat out in Aberdeen. So water rescue is still ongoing. Let's look at South Mountain, I-70. Let's look west. The storm is east of the mountain. What I'm worried about now, people in Frederick, Thurmont, Walkersville, Tawnytown, I'm worried about this storm flaring up as it comes past the mountain. It's right on top of the mountain right now. Catoctin, South Mountain, Raven Rock, it's right on top of the ridge. Traditionally, we see these storms flare back up, and it's killing it right now. But when it was in the valley on Hagerstown, it rocked Hagerstown. Watch it flare up, and you get these ridge, like these rows going here. It's thin. It got thick over Hagerstown, and now it's getting thin and orange again because it's crossing the mountain. When this comes back down the mountain, it's going to accelerate and pick up strength again. So Thurmont, Walkersville, Frederick, Tawnytown, Carroll Valley, Gettysburg, Westminster, you might get rocked by this storm in the next hour. It's moving much faster, about 25, 30 miles an hour. It won't last as long. It won't be as heavy flooding, or it's not going to be a tornado causing problem. But you can see the amount of electricity it put out while it was in the valley on 81 was intense. Tomorrow we're going to get probably similar storms to this storm right here, squall line type storms, and you can see the reflection of the mountain on the radar. See that? That's the returns coming back, bouncing off the mountains. So as this moves across and gets out here between Thurmont and Tawnytown, Gettysburg, Westminster, Mount Pleasant area, basically about like this. We might see, when that storm gets into this area, we might see a sudden strengthening for a few, and a more intense lightning output. It is heading more to the north towards York. You see that right there? Look at that power. Watch it as it gets into Hagerstown in the valley floor, sucks up all that humidity and puts out a whole bunch of electrical power. And it always takes it a few frames past where it picks up that power. But the valley floor is right down the center here where 81 rolls. And then in the next few frames, it'll strengthen suddenly. And then as it goes up the mountain, it'll be squeezed. Travis, no, I don't. I'm in a wheelchair, so I can't really do a whole lot like that, but I plan on it. That's part of the plan, I think. In the future, I'm going to try to start doing that, but We got wires and poles on fire, transformers on fire, and Havre de Grace. Harford County is still a mess. And this storm may scrape along northern Carroll and Baltimore County, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for Harford County, northern Harford County. But this is going to be ongoing all night. These storms are a lot less powerful. They're not going to be a big issue the later it gets, but it looks like this storm passed through the Hagerstown, Chambersburg Valley along 81 there. And there was a lot of humidity still sitting there waiting for it. So it powered it up. But this is basically the overall outlook here. So there's another line behind these even. If we put this Pittsburgh radar on, we can see these storms from the other side. You can see the storm in Cape and Bridge area, Berkeley Springs, is putting out a lot of lightning. And then out in Oakland, there's a little bit of a cell there. It's kind of falling apart as it runs into the ridge. That big ridge there that runs along the first ridge of the Alleghenies, like Cumberland and down past Kaiser and all through there, it acts like a big fence and it helps kill some of these cells as they move in, but they can reform when they get into the big valleys like the Hagerstown Valley, Great Valley, Shenandoah. You can see they flare back up, pick up a lot of strength from the humidity trapped down in there. And that's what causes these kind of storms to flare back up. And this guy here just does not want to give up. High water on Route 40 at Old Robin Hood Road. On Route 40, high water. So Harford County residents, the next couple hours, all that water's got to go somewhere. It's got to go down Deer Creek, Broad Creek, Swan Creek, Winter's Run, all of those big creek areas that flood out. It's going to be a problem for the next probably hour or two at least. And that's why we still have these flash flood warnings up. Turn that off. The Bel Air, Forest Hill area is, and Falston area is for another 45 minutes. And that's for main flash flooding, but rivers and creeks. Aberdeen area is for another 106 minutes, which is basically 2 hours, more or less. And there are a lot of roads closed. And they're backing off of the emergency situation with the radios, but Newcastle County and moving into southern New Jersey, this cell here is going to be a problem. Look at it flare back up when it gets over the water there. That thing right there. Boom. It's pulling that water off the Delaware River and filling itself back in. Massive amount of lightning in Newcastle County. Up in Lancaster, we've got problematic storms and another one coming in this flood prone area between Lancaster and Harrisburg. And this cell is going to move right through there. And when it crosses the river, it tends to flare back up. These river valleys, let me turn this back up to normal map. I've got it set so that the day-night is on, but you can't see anything, so. There's the Susquehanna River, and I'm located here, 151, I'm sorry, 155 and 161 Rock Run Road. So that's where I was at right there. So my north-facing camera for the Aurora cam looks right at the Conowingo Dam. My south camera faces Aberdeen, and my west camera faces Baltimore storm cams. But this storm is still causing enough lightning out the back of it into Cecil County even. There's some strikes happening, so. But it's definitely regenerated itself. Moved into Delaware City now. Go back to Del Dot. Catch that before it. Take a look at that before it moves off into New Jersey. No, you can't see much on that camera, but heavy rain on the road. A police officer. The Delaware City cam is usually pretty good. You can really see how hard it's raining there. Clinton Street in Delaware, Route 9. So heavy, severe rain. Hardly any wind. It's raining straight down. Back further by Route 7. More of a sideways rain. You can see Delaware City off in the distance there. So mostly just heavy rain. The severe thunderstorm warnings tend to be cautionary because it can produce that wind. Let's see if we got any wind going on. Well, let's move to the Fort Dix radar. And I don't know if you've noticed, see how this is spread out all through the map, and the storms are kind of linking to each other, and the reds, the dark reds are turning to orange, and the oranges are turning to yellow as it moves and advances in. That is spreading out, which means they're collapsing down. The heights of the storms are coming down from thunderstorm level more to just rain. They're raining themselves out, and they collapse down in height as they do that. As they do that, they spread in all directions as well, and that's a sign of weakening. But this guy right here just doesn't want to give up. Must be a little bit of a low pressure system there, keeping itself going. It flared back up into the purples again. So it picked up the steam, and then it flares back up into purples after it does that. And now it's re-strengthened right on the Maryland-Delaware line, right about here in the Elkton area, and now it's falling back apart again. Still got a good bit, but they could let the severe thunderstorm warning expire, or they could just cancel it. They got 41 more minutes. I don't think that's necessary. It's also picked up forward speed, which is a good sign when it spreads out like that. So it flared back up for a few minutes, a couple frames, started putting out a whole lot more lightning, and now it's falling back down on the lightning scale. The amount of lightning strikes it's generating, but more or less, the storms that are behind these, pretty stout, but they're not severe. They're underneath the severe limit. So you're going to hear lightning strikes. It's going to be crazy for a few minutes, but it's nowhere near like it was earlier today with these severe storms. These storms are spreading out too. And as we advance through the night into the no, I'm not part of the fire department. I used to ride when I was in the 90s. I became firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and rescue 1 certified back then. So I know about it. I know how to understand all the lingo and language, but I haven't done that in 30 years, just about. That was before I even met my wife in '98. So like when I was a young kid, '93 to '95. So the Hagerstown cell is all I'm really worried about at this point, coming out of the mountain. But the orographic lift of going up over that mountain should help weaken it. I'm just worried about if there's any volume of humidity, because I see these cells popping up in front of it, and that's what worries me over Gettysburg. Let me show you what I mean. So ahead of that big cell, you see these storms popping up and forming here. That indicates that there's still enough fuel there for storms to fire up out of the blue as they come out of the mountain. And you can see the mountain right here. As they drop, as this air mass is moving through, that's charged up, gets down into Gettysburg out of the mountains, and it starts flaring up again. That's a bad sign. That means that it could still be generating storms. When this is already thick and heavy, gets into that air mass off of the mountain, that can also regenerate and become a severe storm again. So we may see a severe thunderstorm warning for the Gettysburg area along Route 30 north towards the Harrisburg area for these cells along the Maryland PA line and north. It's iffy because that's State College and they are a lot more frugal with their warnings than Mount Holly and Baltimore is. So the Pennsylvania Maryland border, that's this line here. From here north, State College up here controls it. From the mountains along the Maryland PA border south, all the Maryland counties and northern Virginia, as well as the panhandle of West Virginia, controlled by Sterling, Virginia, Baltimore office. The Eastern Shore also. Now, Delaware is controlled by Mount Holly, along with southern New Jersey, in this area up around Philadelphia. And then Wakefield, down here, in between Richmond and Norfolk, controls most of the northern Virginia area and the peninsula. And then when you get into West Virginia over here, down 81, the left side is controlled by Charleston over here. And this whole area is split between the Pittsburgh and Charleston radar. So, yep, Middleton is next on the list. And the worst has gone by, but there's another little cell there on the back side that's coming through. So you guys got rocked twice, literally, but the rain and the wind is definitely coming apart, slowing down, and the radar is slowing down. But this may recharge one more time off of the Delaware River and northern part of the bay, which is very warm temperature-wise. So they're probably going to get it over along the turnpike south down to into the Pine Barrens. And that's worrisome because it's been so dry over here. They need the rain, but the lightning that's coming out of this storm could cause some serious issues. The Hagerstown cell, you've got another Hagerstown storm coming in, and this might get loud again as it moves into Hagerstown, but hopefully that first storm used up most of the energy. So Martinsburg, Hagerstown, this whole area, Falling Waters, Hedgeville, Big Springs, halfway, and then Keedysville, Boonesboro, you guys are going to get a second storm coming through in the next hour. In the next half hour, probably. It's moving pretty fast compared to earlier. And then there may even be another set of cells behind that as this moves through. This looks like unimpressive right now because of the mountains.
But we now have the block of Warren to Otsego to Adams. No electric.
Power, they're fighting the power in Aberdeen big time. Sparks and stuff like that. So this is the radar in Sterling, Virginia at Dulles Airport. Look, you want to see it? There's your next red radar. There's your tower right there. Look at that. Isn't that cool? I can zoom in that tight. National Weather Service, Baltimore, Washington office. And that's on the end of the Dulles International Airport. And that's where we get most of our radar from. Now, these are mountains reflecting this noise. It's always there, and you can see mountain ridges are causing that. There's a Blue Ridge Mountain Road. Mount Weather Operations Center is right there. You want to see that up close? It's flashing because of the radar noise. So that's what that radar return that you see is, the noise from the mountains reflecting, because they've set this radar to just miss the top of the mountains so that they can see as far as they can see. However, it makes a blank spot in the mountains, and we can't see in these ridges and valleys because the next radar closest is Pittsburgh. So we flip to this side. If they're down the middle or to the west, you got to use the Pittsburgh radar. If they're down the middle or to the east, you use this radar, and it gives you a better idea of what's really happening. So it's important to remember that, because this storm at the closest radar doesn't look that bad here, but if you flip it to the Pittsburgh radar, it's looking at the very top of it, and it looks much worse. So you got to be careful with that, and you want to be as close as possible to help tell what's happening as low as possible to the ground, because the radar tilts even slightly as it looks. The further away it looks, the higher up into the sky it sees, and that's why it gets hard to tell what's going on out that far. The Fort Dix radar, the storm is trying to keep going, but come on now. Still hammering heavy rain in Delaware City, but the storm has crossed the river and is over in, what is that? Pennsville, Alloway, Salem. I thought that was Salem, New Jersey. But we're going to have these flash flood warnings for another half hour. Aberdeen still hammered for another 90 minutes, hour and a half. 10:14, so it's going to be a while, folks, and we've got more storms on the way, but these storms are a lot less severe. Look at that spreading out and thickening up. That's because we're far away. See, we're all the way over here in Fort Dix looking at this storm. It looks much more severe than it really is. So you've got to be at the closest radar possible to get an idea of what's really going on here. The Delaware cameras are horrible. They're great cameras, but they do not stay running on their own. Already done raining there at 72 on Route 1.
Special ops team. Swiftwater Rescue, Philadelphia Road, Bush Road, talking to me, Edward 622.
Route 40. Or no, Philadelphia Road, Route 7. Route 7 and Bush Road. What did I tell you guys? That it would flood out there along Route 7. Now the big creeks, like Winter's Run, Swan Creek, all along Route 7 and Route 40 are flooding out as that water moves out of the upper end of the county in Bel Air, Darlington, Carson's Run areas, and is moving down towards the bay. And those areas are swelling up now. And somebody has driven into the water on Route 7 at Bush Road, which is Philadelphia Road. I know, we're down here. That's in Abingdon. So this area, like Bush Mill Tavern, Harford Town, Bush Road, Bush Valley Landfill, Harford Town Drive, all the bottom of the hill there where Route 136 and Route 7 comes in. James Run is flooding out that area as usual. That always ends up underwater during heavy storms. All that water is moving down here. And somebody has driven down Route 7 from the 543 side into the waters. Bushmill Tavern is probably underwater right now, or close to it, because this whole area from about where it says Philadelphia Road here, all the way down to where it says Bush Declaration, Harford Town, where this field is, you know, all of this area ends up underwater when we get this flooding. 136 and Route 7, and then Bush Road is down here. Bynum Run and James Run come together right here. So, Aloha, Beauty, Harford Town Drive. This whole area, Bush Valley Landfill, Bynum Run. So, Route 7 is underwater, Philadelphia Road at 136. And they have called in the boats. Swiftwater Rescue teams. Yeah, Bynum Run comes in here. James Run comes in over here, and they converge in this Bush Declaration Natural Resources Management area, which is all the woods that you see behind Bush Mill Tavern. So, Southern York County, you're probably next for the big storm. And it looks pretty stout. It's in Gettysburg now. Let's look at the Gettysburg. They have a big cam at the square. You can pull that up. They just said it's a trooper, police officer. Maryland State Police is in the water at Route 7 and 136 area by Bushmill Tavern where it's flooded out. So, bad news. That's unbelievable that they would do that. But they're not paying attention always because they're driving. It can be hard. What's going on here? Let's go to Windy. The Windy app Pro level has webcams. And that's what it looks like right now in Gettysburg. Bottom right corner of the screen. It's not even raining, but the sky looks wicked as that storm moves in. The storm's over top, so that storm is not as bad as it looks because it is not pouring rain, but I know this is old footage. Never mind. Why is it not showing me the actual cam? Must be down. Yeah. Back. That can't be accurate. It's only showing me a time lapse. The camera's out. So unfortunately, that's not gonna work. Excuse me. Let's try. Yeah, the camera's down. It would be green if it was live. A lot of the cameras are out. That's just somebody's random camera. So we've got no live cams in that area. Power must be out in that region still. PA cameras are horrible. So that's pretty much it, folks. I'm going to get off here. The storms are not severe, just a lot of lightning. So if you've got problems with animals that are up all night because of the storms, you may want to drug them now. And the calls for swiftwater rescue and things like that will probably continue coming in, but these storms are going to put out a lot of lightning when they're in the valley. Let's look at the Hagerstown cams on Route 70 and 81 real quick. See how this second storm coming into Hagerstown now looks. Here's the tower cam. Traffic's very slow, but it's not bad. Lightning in the distance. 70 at 81, looking west, lightning in the distance. So the storm is just coming into the valley now. Wow. There's St. Paul looking west at the storm. A lot of lightning. The next camera, next exit, very bright. Lots of lightning. Still no rain. 70 at mile marker 5. Looking east. I got cameras dualed up. So lots of lightning coming into Hagerstown again. But it's not a very bad storm. It's just that these storms are very electrically charged today. You can see the lightning lighting up the valley here. I-70 at 68, the interchange. One of my favorite cams right there, up on the hill.
Female 55, we're now alerting ALS 3, not response. 86-year-old female, stuck in her chair and unable to breathe, having respiratory distress. 4, yellow, red, 38, yellow.
Nice east facing. I want 81 west facing. There we go. So we'll be able to see how bright white that lightning is coming in. Traffic's very slow on 81 and 70 both. And it's just starting to rain there, so we're right here at 70 and 81 on the map. Right here. And that's exactly where the rain is starting. The lightning's coming in. But overall, it's not that bad. But everybody's going to probably see more lightning and more rain tonight. But it shouldn't be heavy flooding rain, and it should not be a serious damaging wind event or anything like that. More or less gusty winds, and you can see on the camera here. Let's pull that big cam up.
Female 55, just your information, we do have wire pole at the intersection of 14 on Vega Street. We have confirmed that it is open though. Dispatch brush 13.
So that's the storm coming in Hagerstown right now at 70 and 81 on the cam. And you can see the sheets of rain coming across the cam right there in the headlights of the vehicle as they come down the highway. People are pulling off, waiting it out. But it's not severe. I would say it's probably right at or underneath the edge of a severe storm. With the extremely heavy rain causing the fog lake look on the camera, it's just sheets of wind driven rain blowing around, making it look foggy there. So if we go to the other camera, the Hagerstown Tower cam, you can see it looks foggy there, and the camera's wiggling around in the wind, but the trees aren't whipping crazy. You can still see in the distance, the visibility will start going down more on this camera because this is further to the east. And then we just had a lightning strike way out up on Mount Etna at 70 right there with a right there, right on the ridge line next to Route 70, a lightning strike by the quarry there along Mapleville Road, Route 70 on top of, going up the ridge line near Mount Etna. That's crazy. From that storm all the way on the other side of the mountain. You can see the plus sign right there. And the storm's way over here. So that just struck a good 10 miles away from that storm, where the other lightning strikes are coming from. 10 miles to the closest lightning strike. So that was a big one. Camera's starting to get crazy looking from the wind, but that's a tower cam. It's way up in the sky, so it's 100 plus feet in the air. It's going to fuzz out. It won't be able to focus. Let's try 81 and 70 looking east. That'll keep the camera shielded. But look at that wind shaking that camera. We're at 136 and 543 with 2 texts. You want from your side or still having it? They're trying to rescue this police officer from his mistake of driving into the water down there at 136 and that's horrible. Might get in trouble for that. They just lost a police vehicle. A Maryland State police officer stranded in the water at 136 and Route 7 by Bushmill Tavern. They're trying to rescue him now. Stranded in his vehicle in the water, stalled out. So things are quieting down. The storms are losing their strength. The only severe thunderstorm warning in the area is now over in New Jersey, southern New Jersey, and moving away from the Wilmington area. You're still getting lightning strikes. There's nothing else on the radar to the south that would be moving into our area. They would have to come from the Virginia and West Virginia area. The last storm that's potent is what's moving in on the cameras here in the Hagerstown area now. On the radar there on the left side. So as soon as that other severe thunderstorm warning goes away, I'll wait a few minutes to make sure that this group of storms moving into Adams and York County from Washington County and Frederick County are not going to become more severe, because that one cell that first went through Hagerstown did regenerate like I thought. If you look here, as it came out of the mountains into Gettysburg, you can see it here kind of flare back up, and it's showing convection. See that weird motion, how it's kind of like streaming and bubbling as it's moving. That's convection, and that's pretty good convection. That could possibly get another severe thunderstorm warning on it. And Harford County is still tore up. There's still wires arcing and sparks and poles on fire. There's still heavy flooding. So don't want to go anywhere. In Harford County, Baltimore County, east along the Harford County line is also flooded out in some areas, especially on the back roads. Chapel Road is all tore up between Havre Grace and Aberdeen. They've got a new wires arcing as they try to turn the power back on, and the power does automatically try to re-kick after so many minutes. They've got automated systems that try to circuit breaker type systems that will shut off when the power is arced out, when a tree limb hits it, or otherwise something else happens like that, and then after a few minutes it'll kick back on to see if the problem is solved or not. So that's why you have to stay away from downed wires, because those automated systems are constantly trying to restart the system. But otherwise, as long as you're at home, even though these storms are pretty strong, they're not severe. and they don't last very long. They pass by quickly. But that cell in Hanover, if you look at that, York County, you're going to get whacked in the next over the next hour as this storm moves in. It's pretty stout, and it's definitely bubbling, causing some convection. Let's look at the velocity. You can see it on the velocity radar. It's got some decent winds going on there. 40, 45 mile per hour gusts on the front of that, and a little bit of rotation here and there where there's hail cores, heavy rain cores. So 40, 45, 35, 40 mile per hour winds. And along that front edge, 45, 46. Thought I saw a 50 in there. 51 mile per hour gust right there. This should be, and that's in Mount Pleasant, Littlestown, PA. Some strong winds right there, 53, 54 mile an hour just about. McSherrystown. You're getting some strong winds along that front edge of that storm. So let's stop the radar. That's the 53, 54, 45, 46. So there's some 46 mile an hour gusts mixed in here and there, 42, 44. And these are up in the sky, so at the ground level it could be even more stout. And that's what that what I described earlier, where that storm re-strengthened as it came out of that mountain in the right in between the Thermont and Tawnytown area, re-strengthened with that humid, hot air, and now it's in the Littlestown area to McSherrystown, Gettysburg, headed towards Spring Grove and Jefferson, Hanover. A little bit of a rotation going on here. So you get these convections going on, and when I put it in motion, you'll see it bubble. There can be rotations, spin up small little areas, and that's why you've got that dark area and the bright area right next to it. That can be indicating just a small area of rotation, but 50, 60 mile an hour wind gusts at ground level are possible. When you're that far away from the radar, looking north, and this thing is gusting out, that's a good sign though. There's a gust front coming off of it, so the storm's dying out again. That's what this is. That shadow coming out in front of the storm means it's dying, and that's the end of the life cycle. But it can gust out like that with 50 to 60 mile an hour winds. And that's the acceleration down the mountain that I was telling you about earlier. So it went up over the mountain, it came back down, it accelerates just like anything else would as it rolls down the mountain. You're talking 2,000 foot peaks along the ridge line, and then 300, 400, 500 foot above sea level heights from Hanover to Westminster. So 1,500 feet of drop can be enough to accelerate it. So you guys are good to go to bed. You're safe. You're not going to get anything crazy happening. I'm going to get off here. We've got cells in the northern Maryland and southern New York area that are pretty stout but not severe. The cell that moved into southern New Jersey is lost its severe thunderstorm warning, so that's over with. And there are more storms behind these, but that one in Hagerstown now, that's creating a lot of noise, was short-lived. And you can see on the cameras, it was a big blast, and then it was done. These cells behind that, if we flip to the Pittsburgh area, are just rain, no lightning strikes. It's just these two cells here from Hagerstown to York, Harrisburg area that are creating the problem. As they move through, you should be good to go. And all that's left now is the residual after effects that you need to worry about. If you're driving, be very careful you don't run into water. There are flooded roads. Excuse me. There are there are flooded roads all over Harford County, Baltimore County, and Cecil County, but mainly Harford County. Southern Harford County is still experiencing power outages, experiencing trees in the road, experiencing. You can hear it live on the phone right now. um, they're having a lot of problems in central and southern Harford County with flooding, and still with powered outages and trees down they're working on. So a lot of the back roads, like Chapel Road, is blocked by trees and wires down from Aberdeen to Havre de Grace. You may have to go through Bully Rock or around other ways to get there. You're going to have southern York County is probably going to see, and from York south, I'm sorry, from Harrisburg south, you're going to see heavy rain in the next few minutes. You're going to see a secondary storm come in behind that should be losing steam, but at this point, nothing is severe at this point, and it will be losing steam as it advances. So you are safe to go to bed. And if you are out driving and have to get home tonight, leaving work anytime in the next 2 to 3 hours in Harford County or eastern Baltimore County, western Cecil County, southern Cecil County, and even parts of Newark and around that area, there may be flooded roads wherever it typically floods. Be very careful driving and have a good night.
Sure thing.